before that, let me introduce you to me. So my name is Omaima, as you can already guess by now. I work at Omaima, the dream team, as a consultant and a co-team leader. One of my responsibilities as well is that I work as a Scrum Master. Based in Morocco, I work from the Casablanca office, and I'm 25 years old. It's been almost 3 years and 8 months in the Salesforce ecosystem. A couple of days left to my second anniversary with Omaima, actually. And yeah, and I aspire to be a future project manager in Salesforce, inshallah. If you haven't been here earlier, this is a couple of pictures about us. We are one family. We care for each other. We grow together. And yeah, this is our values, I guess. These are pictures from our trip, either in Lisbon, Portugal, which was last September, and also a couple of pictures in our activities on the Casablanca office. This is also us pictures from the Casablanca activities. Okay, our agenda for today looks like the following. So we'll be talking a little bit about an introduction to Social Studio, Radian 6, automation possibilities. I have a use case, one of our customers, limitations, and some flash news by the end of the presentation by 2024. Now, I hope you're excited as I am today because I want to talk about one of the coolest projects I worked with so far, which is Social Studio. Now, how many of us use their phones? I use my phone almost 2 hours per day. Not ashamed of that, but I use Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, not only for chatting purposes, but I also see the news. One of the things that I also do is that I shop from my phone. Do you also use your phones for shopping? How do you shop from your phones? Do you see the brands, the followers of the brands, the recommendations, the reviews? How do you do your shopping on the phone?
Price.
Yeah, I mean, but besides the price, do you also like, if you want to buy a shampoo, I want to buy a shampoo X. So instead of going to the drugstore, I would go to the group of Facebook I have and ask the girls, hey, would you recommend me this shampoo? Or what kind of shampoo would you recommend me? So I would buy products based on what people are recommending me on the social media. So if I was a company X and I want to launch in a field, let's say beauty, and I launched already a couple of products, I need to keep an eye on what is happening on the social media, right? So the big question is, how can brands manage all of their social media feedback? Now, Salesforce was very smart here because after Salesforce had its sights on marketing, basically Salesforce is already the leader on service and sales, Salesforce had its sights on the marketing, digital marketing field. And Salesforce made an entry to marketing by Social Studio. Social Studio can be nominated or called the first product in Marketing Cloud. Which is true if we look at the time acquisition actually. Now the first question of course was how can brands manage all of the feedback received from the social media? And we said that Salesforce proposed a solution called Social Studio to do that. How can we do that? Okay, the first thing is Radian 6. But what is Radian 6? Radian 6 is Social Studio itself. So if you type in Social Studio login, the URL showing up is radian6.com or loginradian6.com. So it's the platform of Social Studio in which you can do a lot of things. One of the things you can do on Radian 6 is the following. So you can create, speaking here about the brands or the companies, for example, they can create, schedule, monitor all of the feedback received from Twitter, for example, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and more. But, okay, how can brands use Radian 6 for that? Radian 6 has 5 tools, or 5 modules. The first one is actually my favorite, which is sentiment model. This one helps brands to analyze the content received from the customers by analyzing the words used, such as the emotions of the customer. And this model can categorize the feedback of the customer either as positive, negative, or neutral. That way brands can understand what are the customers are feeling about a certain product. Then, the next one is topic profiles and source grouping, which is a cool engine, to be honest, because with Radiant 6, you can link all of the social media to your Radiant 6 account. For example, if the brand has 2 accounts of Twitter, 2 accounts of Facebook, 2 accounts of Instagram, all of them can be linked to Radiant 6. And you can see all of the ongoing conversations, of course. But what topic profiles and source grouping allows you to do is to fetch all of the ongoing conversations of the customers about your product, for example. So I am a company X, I have a shampoo X, let's say, and I want to know what the customers are talking about my shampoo. So I would use this engine to search and fetch all of the ongoing conversations between the customers and categorize them, for example, based either on channel or feelings and so on. Engagement macros are very similar to Service Cloud macros. So it's a couple of actions that you can execute based on social posts. And then last but not least is post and publish labels, which is basically tags to help the customer or the brand analyze the feedback from the customers. Now the picture I'm showing is what Radiant 6 looks like. The tab is engaged, and there you can see all what the customers are talking about your brand, and you can also see their feelings for it. For example, this one is green. It means that the feedback received from this customer on Twitter is positive. This one is red, which means that the customer is complaining about something, or the comment from the customer is negative. And you can use that to take action on that comment, or requirement, or complaint. You can also use dashboards within Radiant 6 to understand the amount, for example, of posts you have all over a period of time. You can also check how are the customers are feeling over a timeline. You can also check the amount of social posts or comments or replies received from the customer based on channel. For example, this is 9.5K comments received from Twitter for this brand. Now this is stunning because at 2022, it's very important for a brand to be present on the social media. It's very important for a brand to handle their social media content in order to be successful. But there is more, because with Social Studio, you can not only just fetch and watch and take action, but you can automate your logic and your process. But how can we do that? Now, one of the interesting things I did with Omaima for a customer is that we integrated their Social Studio with Service Cloud. And that way, we actually migrated the data from Social Studio to Service Cloud, and that way, the customer can provide a good support, and they would have a special support process for the social channels or the social comments received from Social Studio. Now, this we can do on the platform rulesradiant6.com. It's not a different platform, it's also Social Studio. Social Studio has 2 different platforms. The first one I showed you earlier, which is Radiant 6, and this one is Rules Radiant 6 in order to automate. The next use cases or the next screens I'm going to be showing you is in order to integrate your Social Studio with Service Cloud. How can we do that? So the first thing is that you go to Rules, URL I showed before, rulesradiant6.com. Let's say I already have my Radiant 6 already set up, and I have a couple of accounts linked to it, and I have a separate Salesforce org in which I want to receive the feedback. So the first thing you need to do is that you need to create data source. We can think of a data source like a collection variable. So I want to apply the same logic for Facebook, and the same logic for Twitter, and the same logic for YouTube, and the same logic for TikTok, or whatever account is already linked to my Social Studio. So all what you have to do is to create a data source per channel, and you can do that, of course, based on different criteria, and gather all of the accounts, Facebook accounts in one single data source. Let's say I want to send all of the DMs coming from Twitter to Service Cloud. Then I would create a rule. I would call it, for example, Twitter DM, and I would choose the action from Social Studio, send to Salesforce. and then you can choose your Salesforce org, and this one is actually to create a case. So for every DM received from Twitter, I can create a case on Service Cloud. And of course, that could be based on conditions that you can specify here. Now we connected Social Studio to Salesforce. In order to do the conversations between the customers and the agents of Service Cloud, you also need to connect from Salesforce itself. And that is by using Social Customer Service. Social Customer Service will allow you to connect to your Social Studio from this place. It's not showing up, but this is a button to log into Social Studio, and you can see all of the social accounts linked in this tab. You can also apply the logic. For example, if you want to filter or recognize the language in inbound settings, and if there is any errors, you will be seeing them on the error log here. Salesforce also provides a conversations or social conversations component. This one is to see it more in a good way on Service Cloud. So this is a DM received from this girl on Service Cloud, and you can see that the comment or the DM is positive. You can see the amount of followers she has, and you can see her message. And you can reply from here as well. Now let's talk some numbers. All what I have explained is how is Radian 6 functioning and how is Social Studio functioning. But I also want to show you for one of the implementations we did for one of our customers. So for the past 3 quarters, quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3, one of our customers received around 90K social posts coming from Instagram or Service Cloud. Also they have received precisely around 70K social posts coming from Facebook, around 10K to 15K from Twitter, in some cases as well from YouTube. In total, they have received 167K cases or social posts, which are basically the comments, the DMs connected from Social Studio to Service Cloud. Some of them are positive, as you can see. Some of them are neutral. Some of them are negative, which is perfectly fine. And I also wanted to show you the amount of cases handled on Service Cloud from Social Studio. So around 45K cases were closed for Instagram, around 30K cases were closed for Facebook, and around 5K were closed for Twitter. Now, nothing is perfect, of course. Everything has advantages and limitations. For Social Studio, you can only add up to 50 accounts. So if a brand has more than 50 accounts, they cannot be added. Then we have the sentiment tagging, which means the engine that analyzes the customer's feedback is not always accurate. It has a very complex setup, so it always requires trainings and continuous support. And then the language recognition is not always accurate. And that is why at Van Eigens, we always do an extra step to make sure that the language is recognized correctly at the cases level. Now, all of this was very good news, but unfortunately, I have some sad news. Can anyone guess what is the sad news? No, so Salesforce, unfortunately, announced that Social Studio will be retired. So yeah, I decided to keep the presentation for a good reason. I'm gonna tell you later.
Plot twist.
The death date of Social Studio is 2024. I know this is very sad, but is Salesforce really pulling a product from the market with no plan B? Do you think that's the case? No. Yes, that's correct, because there is a new partnership on the horizon. Nothing is officially yet on the papers, but Salesforce is partnering up with Sprout Social. If you Google Sprout Social, you're going to find a couple of keywords: engage with customers, monitor, schedule, post, create, and more, which is very similar to what Social Studio does. As I said, nothing is official yet, but this is brewing, and we're going to hear about it probably in the next months. Social Studio. But there's also open APIs from Twitter, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, from Instagram. And you can always build your own custom logic within the platform of Salesforce. But before that, I really advise to reach out to your Salesforce account executive because they always have guidance and they will always help you towards what is the best alternative if Social Studio was retiring at 2024. Now going to, what is your name again? Manan. Manan said, if Social Studio was retiring, why did you keep your presentation and why did you present about Social Studio? I have the answer for that. Don't you think that social media is very important at 2022? Don't you think that a brand is successful measuring the amount of followers, reviews, and comments? I do think the same, to be honest. If I want to buy something, if the brand does not have a big amount of followers and recommendations, I will not. That is why it's very important to help customers understand that they need to be present on the social media, have a base of followers, or to keep their customer relations at a good level. And that is why I presented Social Studio, because I wanted people to know what it does in the first place, and then for future projects, of course, you can always base your choice on what Social Studio does in the first place. That's it. Do you have any questions to me about Social Studio? Did you know Social Studio before? No? Some of them, yeah, some of you know. Yeah, it's not actually unfortunate news, but yeah.
We know advertising studio.
Sorry?
We know advertising studio.
Is that a product of Salesforce?
Yes.
Oh, really? I never heard about it. Never heard of that.
So, if the main company can view its customers' feedbacks via these reactions or comments, do you think that the new Sprout replacement can also help the customers see other customers' reactions and comments about such a company, like reviews,
What do you mean?
to help them decide to buy or not the products?
Can you rephrase it, please?
It's like when you want to go to a gym, you check the Google reviews first,
Yeah.
so that you can see what about people say about the gym.
Yeah, of course.
So in the future, can customers use Social Studio for themselves instead of for just the company?
I don't know. If you're using Google, why would you use Social Studio? Social Studio was made for customers or brands and not their customers. Then they can have an overview of what is going on and take action upon that. But I believe we could stay. Social Studio helps brands to understand what the customers are talking about in other social networks. I don't see how much it's useful for customers themselves.
It's gonna be missing here.
I think it's more of brands that need to use Social Studio or the alternative in the future. Further questions? Okay, well, thank you for joining